If you were a kid anywhere near a television in the mid-'80s, or, honestly, even if you just had older siblings who wouldn't hand over the remote, there's a specific sound, a specific cadence of words that probably triggers an immediate visceral reaction in your brain.
Oh, yeah.
It's that chant.
Thunder, thunder, Thundercats, ho.
It is arguably one of the most recognizable battle cries in pop culture history. I mean, it's right up there with "May the Force be with you" or "Live long and prosper." It's cultural shorthand.
Absolutely. And I think for a lot of us, Thundercats exists in this fuzzy nostalgic hate. You know, we remember the toys, Deathclaw shield, Sword of Omens, we remember the wild red hair. But when you actually go back and look at the source material, and we are talking about the entire 130 episode run today, this wasn't just a vehicle to sell plastic actions, was it?
It was that, certainly. I mean, let's be honest, we can't pretend commerce wasn't involved. But no, it was also something much, much stranger. Oh, looking through these notes, gloriously strange seems to be the theme. It's this mashup of conflicting genres that has no business working together.
None at all.
You've got spaceships, but you also have mummies. You have advanced robotics, but you also have sorcery and ghosts. It's like Star Wars crashed into Conan the Barbarian, and they just decided to keep filming the wreckage.
That's a perfect way to describe it. It is a sci-fi fantasy hybrid that really leans into the absurdity of both genres. But what's fascinating here, and this is the core of it for me, is that beneath all the laser beams and the magic, there is a core tragedy to the story that most people
This is the part that blew my mind when we started digging into the stack for this deep dive. Because when you're 7 years old watching, you just see a cool superhero leader. You see Lion-O as this buff, capable warrior leading the charge.
Yeah.
But you're telling me that's not really the whole truth.
No, it's not even close. And this is critical to understanding the entire series. Lion-O looks like a bodybuilder, sure, but internally.
Yep.
He is a 10-year-old.
Wait, walk me through that. He's a 10-year-old.
He starts the series as a child. A literal child, but due to a malfunction in his suspension capsule during their escape from their home planet, which we will definitely unpack shortly, he physically ages during their space journey, but his mind does not.
So he just misses his entire adolescence.
Completely. He goes from 10 to like 20-something in the blink of an eye.
So the Lord of the Thundercats, the leader responsible for the survival of his entire race, has the emotional maturity and life experience of a 5th grader.
Correct.
That is wild. It's basically Tom Hanks in Big.
Yes.
But instead of working at a toy company and jumping on a giant piano, he's fighting an immortal demon mummy on a post-apocalyptic planet.
Precisely. And that dynamic, that internal conflict, it colors every single decision he makes, especially in the early seasons. It recontextualizes the entire show from just a generic action cartoon into a coming-of-age story about a child forced to grow up way too fast.
Wow.
I mean, he's dealing with imposter syndrome on a galactic scale.
So today, our mission is to go beyond the nostalgia. We are going to track this journey from the very first explosion on Thundera to the final breath of Mumm-Ra. We're going to talk about the surprisingly complex character arc, the hilarious incompetence of the villains, and the technological insanity that keeps this show.
There is so much to cover, from the Boy King dilemma to the weird space western era that happens later on. It gets pretty out there.
So let's start at the beginning, literally the beginning of the end, Thundera.
The fall of Thundera. It's a very Krypton-esque scenario, you know. The home planet is unstable, it's on the verge of exploding, and the Thundercats, who are essentially the nobility or the ruling class of this world, are forced to evacuate.
And looking at the footage, this isn't a calm, orderly departure. It's not like they're boarding a cruise ship. This is chaos.
No, it is a complete catastrophe. Things are exploding, the tectonic plates are shifting, and to make matters worse, the mutants, their sworn enemies, are attacking their ships in the middle of the evacuation.
Of course they are.
So they are running for their lives while being shot at.
Talk about a bad day. And this is where we get the first major sacrifice, right? The character Jaga.
Jaga the Wise. He's the mentor figure, the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the group, the patron.
So what happens to him?
Well, the main ship's autopilot is damaged during the mutant attack. They need to get to a planet called Third Earth, which is galaxies away. It's going to take years, maybe decades.
So they have cryo-sleep pods.
Exactly. Suspension pods to sleep through the journey. But someone has to fly the ship.
The autopilot is broken, so they need a manual pilot.
Exactly. So Jaga, who is the elder statesman, he decides to stay behind. He knows he won't survive the journey because of his age, but he volunteers to pilot the ship manually while the rest of the Thundercats go into state.
He essentially chooses to die of old age or, exhaustion at the helm so the others can sleep and survive.
He does.
That is a surprisingly heavy opening for a Saturday morning cartoon.
It establishes the stakes immediately. They are refugees, they have lost their home, they have lost their leader, and they are heading into the absolute unknown. But then, as they sleep, we hit the malfunction.
The incident that creates the void.
As the ship travels through deep space, Lion-O's suspension pod fails to halt his aging process. It keeps him in stasis so he doesn't die, but his body, the metabolic inhibitors, fail.
So when the ship finally crashes on Third Earth, the small boy who went into the pod steps out as a fully grown adult male.
A physically prime adult male, yeah.
Which is terrifying if you think about it. He wakes up, looks in a mirror, if they even had one, and doesn't recognize him.
Exactly. And his friends, Panthro, Tigra, Chitara, they went to sleep guarding a child prince and woke up with a linebacker.
That must create an immediate friction in the group dynamic.
A huge friction. You have Panthro, who is this seasoned mechanic and warrior. Tigra, the intellectual architect. Chitara, the swift warrior. They are experts. They are adult. And suddenly they have to take orders from someone who mentally just wants to play with toys.
There's that great detail I saw in the notes where Lion-O wakes up and sees Snarf. Snarf is his. Well, what is Snarf exactly? He's not a pet.
Snarf is his nursemaid, his nanny. He raised Lion-O.
Right. So he sees his nanny and says, I'm too big for toy. He's trying to perform adulthood, isn't he? He's posturing.
He is. He's faking it till he makes it. And Snarf's role here is really interesting because he's not just a funny sidekick. He struggles immensely with this change. He still treats Lion-O like a baby because, in his mind, only a few hours have passed.
And Lion-O is pushing him away.
He is, because he looks like a man now and feels he needs to act like one. It's a tragic dynamic of a child trying to shed his child before he's actually lived.
Speaking of tragedy, let's talk about their arrival on Third Earth, because they don't exactly land with a fully stocked military base, do they?
No, it's the naked truth, quite literally. Their clothes and armor, the raiment of Thundera, were destroyed or lost in the crash. They arrive with almost nothing.
So they're stranded on a hostile planet, no clothes, no weapons except the sword of omens, and no base.
Correct. And this brings us to a crucial point that the show sometimes glosses over, but is vital for the They are vulnerable. They are refugees in a war zone. They aren't landing on an uninhabited rock. They've landed in a territory that is already being fought.
So Panther really has to step up here. He's the engineer of the group.
Panther goes full MacGyver. He is the unsung hero of the early episodes. He's angry, he's furious that all his equipment is destroyed, but he takes the wreckage of their spaceship and, with basically scrap metal and ingenuity, builds their entire technological infrastructure from scratch.
Including the Thunder Tank.
Oh, yes.
Which we will absolutely have to discuss later, because that thing defies physics in the best way possible.
It absolutely does, but it establishes that the Thundercats are builders. They are survivors. They are trying to create a home from nothing. But, as you noted, they've landed in a very dangerous neighborhood.
And this vulnerability is exactly what attracts the predators.
Instantly.
The mutants.
Yeah.
Slythe, Monkeyan, Jackalman, and Vultureman.
The primary antagonists, at least initially, they followed the Thundercats to Third Earth because they want the Eye of Thunder, which is the jewel in Lion-O.
Now, I'm looking at the profiles for these guys. Slythe, Jackalman, they don't exactly seem like military masterminds. They seem less like an imperial army and more like scavengers.
That is the kindest way to put it. They are stunningly incompetent. They are technological scavs. They rely on brute force. They infight constantly, and they usually fail. They are essentially bullies who stumble upon advanced weaponry.
They're the bumbling henchmen.
They are the definition of bumbling.
So if the mutants are just the local thugs, that necessitates a bigger threat, someone who actually runs the place, the landlord of Third Earth.
Mumm-Ra the Ever.
Just the name gives you chills.
Yeah.
But tell me about his setup, because he's not just another alien with a gun.
No, he is pure supernatural. He is a fascinating villain design. He lives in this massive black pyramid, and he appears initially as a haying, decrepit mummy in a red cloak. Frail, weak even.
But he has a trick.
Oh, he has a big trick. He has the ability to summon the ancient.
And that transformation sequence is iconic. Even if you haven't seen the show, you know the chant. Ancient spirits of evil transform this decayed form
into Mumm-Ra, the ever-living. And suddenly, this decrepit skeleton turns into a massive, muscular, immortal warlord. He is essentially a demigod.
Okay, so you have a demigod. He's immortal. He has magic. The Thundercats are scrap metal refugees. How do they survive 5 minutes?
Well, Mumm-Ra has a fatal flaw, and it is one of the most bizarre and wonderful weaknesses all.
I saw this in the research, and I thought it was a typo.
It is not a typo. Mumm-Ra is terrified of his own reflection.
Wait, hold on. You're saying the Supreme Lord of Evil, the guy who summons ancient spirits and shoots lightning, He looks in a mirror and runs away screaming.
He literally shrieks. In their very first confrontation, Mumm-Ra has Lion-O on the ropes. He's about to destroy him. And Lion-O, in a moment of desperate improvisation, uses the claw shield, polished gold, to reflect Mumm-Ra's image back at him.
And he just leaves.
He panics. He covers his eyes, screams, "My reflection, no!" and flees back to his pyramid to hide in his sarcophagus.
That's hilarious.
It is. But if we want to get analytical for a second, it's a brilliant psychological. He cannot bear to view the physical manifestation of his own nature.
Wow, that's actually pretty deep.
It's a surprisingly deep metaphorical weakness for a cartoon villain. He can dish out evil, but he literally can't look at it.
No.
But yes, it's very funny.
It basically means if the Thundercats had just invested in a hallway of mirrors for the front lawn, the war would have been over in a...
It would have been a very, very...
So, because Mumm-Ra has this crippling insecurity and his mutant minions are completely incompetent, we see the emergence of what I call the outsourcing economy of evil.
Yes.
Mumm-Ra starts hiring freelancers, doesn't he?
He does. He realizes he can't do it all himself, especially with all the shiny surfaces around. So he creates this revolving door of contractors. You have the driller.
Who is, let me guess, a guy who drills.
Exactly. He has a drill for a nose and he drills tunnel. His motivation is that he needs diamonds to keep his drills sharp. Simple. Elegant. Then you have the demolisher.
Doesn't check mirrors, I assume.
Apparently not. And then there is Samurai
Hachiman seemed different from the others, though. He wasn't just a monster of the week.
He was. Mumm-Ra tries to trick him into fighting the Thundercats by telling him they are evil invaders. But Hachiman is a man of honor, a true samurai. He eventually realizes, wait a minute, this mummy guy is a liar. And he switches sides.
Which happens a lot, right? Mumm-Ra's a terrible boss. He rarely pays his contractors, he betrays them, or he sets them up to fail. It's a management disaster.
It really is. He burns bridges with almost everyone he works. He has terrible employee.
So we have the setup. Boy King leader, MacGyver engineer, useless mutants, and a vain, narcissistic mummy who can't stand his own fate. This leads us into the meat of the series, where we get some really defining episodes. And one thing that stood out in the research is that this show went to some unexpectedly dark places.
It did. There is a very special episode vibe to certain art. The writers weren't afraid to tackle social issues, even if they wrap them in these wild fantasy tropes. And the most famous one is arguably the episode with the
don't do drugs metaphor.
Exactly. And it happens to Tigra, the intellectual, the disciplined one, the character who is usually the most grounded and in control.
Which makes him more powerful.
Immensely more powerful. He enters this cave and meets a plant woman named Sylvia. She offers him a magical fruit. He takes one bite and the effects. He hallucinates. He feels this intense euphoria. He feels like he's flying.
But in reality, he's just stumbling around.
He's completely incapacitated. He's a danger to himself and others. But the addiction kicks in. He craves the fruit. He becomes obsessed. He is willing to betray his friend.
That is heavy. Tigra, the guy who is supposed to be the moral compass, literally stealing the Sword of Omens to trade it for a drug.
It was a very explicit allegory for addiction, and it showed that even the good characters, the hero, were fallible. It wasn't just about punching robots. It was about internal weakness. It showed kids that addiction can make good very bad.
Speaking of punching robots.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the Thunder Tank again for a second? Because Panther really outdid himself with that thing.
The Thunder Tank is the ultimate Deus Ex Machina. It is the answer to every problem.
It's a tank, but it's also a submarine.
Oh, yeah. It digs through the earth with those giant claws on the front. It goes underwater. It has lasers. It has grappling hooks. It has a little deployable hovercraft thing.
And in later episodes, Panthro modifies space travel.
He does.
Come on, the tank flies in space.
It does. The technological consistency of the show is, let's call it flexible.
Flexible is a good word for it. We see episodes where characters are walking the plank in deep space.
Like outside a spaceship.
Outside a spaceship, no helmets, just breathing the vacuum of space. The writers played very, very fast and loose with physics. There's an episode where Lion-O falls off a spaceship and is just kind of floating there until someone grabs him as if he fell off a boat. The logic is just, it looks cool, so we're doing it.
That was the 80s cartoon mantra. If it makes for a good toy or a cool visual, physics can take a backseat for a few minutes.
But amidst all this tech and space madness, there's a character who often gets dismissed as the comic relief, but according to our deep dive, he's actually the MVP.
Yes.
Snarf.
Snarf is deceptively competent. Yes, he has the funny voice. Yes, he complains constantly. Snarf, Snarf. But if you actually look at the scorecard, Snarf saves the entire team multiple times.
Okay, I have to ask, there's the moment where he turns into Snarf-Ra. I need to know about this.
This is one of the greatest moments in the show. Mumm-Ra disguises his dog, Mahmut, who can shapeshift, as Snarf to trick Lion-O. So the real Snarf, realizing he needs to match that energy and save his friend, learns an ancient chant. He transforms into this Hulk-like, muscular version of himself called Snarf-Ra.
A buff Snarf.
A buff Snarf. And he just beats Mumm-Ra up. It's incredible.
I love that. The little guy gets his moment.
And it's not a one-off. He also uses his small size to infiltrate the Black Pyramid when everyone else is captured. He's the only one who can fit through the vent. Without Snarf, the Thundercats would have lost the war in Season 1 easily.
He's the Samwise Gamgee of Third Earth.
That is a very apt comparison. He's the loyal heart of the team, and he's tougher than anyone gives him credit for.
So Lion-O has been relying on Snarf, relying on the sword, relying on Panthros tech for a long time. But there comes a point in the series where the show decides, okay, the boy needs to become a man, for real this time.
The anointment trials.
This is arguably the best arc in the entire show.
I agree completely. It happens around Lion-O's 20th birthday, chronologically anyway. He has to prove he is the true Lord of the Thundercat. But the catch is, he has to do it without the Sword of Omen.
No magic.
No magic. No sight beyond sight. Just him.
And he has beat his own teammates?
He has to best them in their areas of expertise. And this is crucial. He isn't supposed to be better than them at their own games, but he has to find a way to survive them and prove his worthy of them.
Okay, so let's break these down, because the way he wins each trial is really telling. First, he has to fight Panther. Strength versus strength.
Which is a losing battle from the start. Panther is stronger, it's an MMA match in the dirt, and Lion-O is getting pummeled. But during the fight, a natural disaster occurs. A rock slide threatens Panther. Lion-O stops fighting to save Panther's life, risking his own victory.
And Panther forfeits.
He does, because a true leader values his people over his own victory. Lion-O wins not by overpowering Panther, but by showing superior character.
Then he has to race Cheetara, and he knows he's slower. There's no way he can win a straight race.
He can't outrun her, so he takes a shortcut, a much more dangerous route, full of monsters and hazards. But the key here is that Cheetara has her super speed drains her energy rapidly. She exhausts herself near the finish line and collapses.
And instead of just running past her and winning while she's down,
he waits. He helps her up. They cross the line together. Again, it's about compassion over competition. He proves he's a leader, not just a winner.
Then the Thunder Kittens, Wily Kit, and Whaley Cat. This is the Maze Runner trial.
The Tower of Trap. The kittens are smaller and craftier. They set traps everywhere. Lion-O realizes he can't out-agile them, so he uses their own tricks again, studies their patterns, and outsmarts the trickster. This proves his cunning.
And finally, the mind trial against Tiger, the intellectual battle.
This is the psychological battle. Tiger uses his whip to create these powerful illusions. He makes Lion-O see fire, monsters, deep pit. Lion-O has to distinguish reality from nation. The test of mental fortitude. He has to trust his own senses over his fear.
And once he beats all his friends, there's a final boss. Mumm-Ra decides to crash the graduation party.
Of course he does. And Lion-O has to fight Mumm-Ra inside the pyramid, still without weapons. And he wins by grabbing Mumm-Ra's sarcophagus source and throwing it into a magical cauldron of destruction.
So he takes away his power source.
Exactly. He proves he doesn't need a magic sword to be a hero. He just needs his will and his intelligence.
It's a huge turning point for his character. After this, the dynamic changes, doesn't it? The other Thundercats stop treating him like a kid.
Completely. He's earned the chair.
The Boy King is gone. He is now the Lord.
The imposter syndrome starts to fade. He finally believes in...
Okay, so Lion-O's proved him. He's the boss. But the notes mention that right after he cements his leadership, the scope of the show drastically changes. It stops being just surviving on Third Earth.
Right. This is what I'd call the expansion. The writers realized they couldn't just keep doing the same skirmishes forever, so they introduced the Thundercats Ho arc, which reveals a massive game changer. They aren't the last survivors era.
We get the B team. The reinforcements arrive.
Exactly. And what's interesting is how they designed these new characters, Bengali, Mumm-Ra, and Linkso, to fill the specific skills gaps the original team had. It's classic team building.
Okay, so who are they?
You have Bengali, who's a blacksmith. They realized Panther can't fix everything while also driving the tank and fighting. They needed someone to handle the weapon creation.
Makes sense. And Mumm-Ra.
She's a dedicated medic. The battles were getting more physical, injuries were happening more often. They needed a healer on the team, someone focused on triage.
And then there's Linkso, the blind warrior.
He's the most fascinating addition, I think. He has no sight, but his other senses are heightened to a supernatural. He uses a braille board to fly their ship, the feline. He's essentially a daredevil archetype.
That's actually really cool disability representation for an 80s cartoon. You didn't see that very often.
It really was. And it was done well. He wasn't a liability, he was an asset. He proves that sensory perception goes beyond sight, which reinforces the show's whole obsession with seeing the truth.
So they have a bigger team, and they establish a new base, the Tower of Omens. But if the heroes level up, the villains have to level up too. The mutants just weren't cutting it anymore.
No, they were becoming a joke. So enter the Lunatics.
These guys look genuinely scary compared to Jackalman.
They are. They come from the dark side of Third Earth. They're a faction of ancient criminals who were encased in lava for centuries. When Mumm-Ra frees them, they bring a level of competence, pure malice the mutants never had.
Who's in charge?
Luna, the leader, is small, but she's cruel and and she has Amok, her giant brutish bodyguard. Each member has a unique, terrifying power. They're a legitimate threat.
They force the Thundercats to actually strategize. It's not just Lion-O yells ho and win.
Exactly. They have to build new vehicles, new weapons. The stakes are raised. And we also get the Berserkers.
Hammerhand and his cybernetic pirates.
Right. And they introduce the Thundercats' kryptonite.
Ah, I was waiting for this. Thundranium.
They discover a specific mineral on this planet, Thundranium, that drains their powers, it balances the scales, because up until this point, the Thundercats were physically superior to almost everyone. Now they have a tangible vulnerability.
So we've got new friends, new enemies, and things are getting much more complicated. And then the show decides to pull the ultimate pivot. They decide to leave Third Earth.
The Return to New Thundera arc. In a pretty wild plot twist, they discover that their home planet has reformed, it has been put back together by the powers, and they feel a duty to go back and rebuild their...
This shifts the setting entirely. It's a whole new show, almost. Now that you're on New Thundera. But the planet isn't exactly stable, is it?
No, not at all. The gravity is messed up. The core is unstable. This introduces the new central plot device for the final, the gyroscope.
The gyroscope. I feel like 20% of the final season is just them fixing this gyroscope.
It is the central conflict. It's a massive machine that keeps the planet's gravity full. Mumm-Ra, who of course followed them, keeps trying to break it. The cats keep trying to fix it. It becomes this endless game of protect the generator.
It's a bit of a step down from, fighting for the soul of the planet. Now it's planetary maintenance.
It is, but amidst all this gyroscope maintenance, we get some really trippy lore expansion regarding the Book of Omens. Now, what is the book?
It's the companion to the sword, right?
The Book of Omens is a repository of all Thunderian knowledge. It's like their Bible and their encyclopedia and history all wrapped in one. And in these later seasons, Lion-O actually enters the book.
Like Tron style. He goes inside.
Very Matrix or Tron. He physically enters the book to learn the ultimate secrets of the Thundercat. He has to fight Mumm-Ra in a tournament of knowledge and will inside. It's very abstract.
It sounds like the writers were really experimenting in these later, just throwing everything at the wall.
They were pushing the boundaries of what a commercial cartoon could be. But sometimes they jumped the shark.
Oh, we have to talk about the weird stuff. The jump the shark moments.
There are a few, but the most infamous is probably the Thunder Cubs arc.
The Thunder Cubs. Just saying it makes me laugh.
The team gets de-aged. They are turned into toddlers.
So Panthro, Chitara, Tigra, they're all baby, like diapers and everything.
Essentially. But they are babies in the middle of a dangerous war zone. So Lion-O, being the only adult left, has to use the Sword of Omens to give them adult understanding while they are still in child.
So you have toddlers fighting mutants with the tactical knowledge of war veterans.
Yes.
It's a chaotic daycare scenario.
It is bizarre. It's horrifying and hilarious at the same time. And then you have the genre shift. The show starts incorporating space Western elements out of nowhere.
With Captain Bragg.
Captain Bragg, the interstellar bounty hunter, and Mandora, the space cop.
Mandora, the evil chick. She's basically Judge Dredd on a hoverbike.
Exact. When those characters show up, the show stops being a fantasy epic and it becomes a sci-fi procedural comedy for an episode. It's a very jarring tonal.
And we can't forget the random one-off villain. The Frog, what was his deal?
The Frogman was an amphibious villain who tried to flood the entire planet. Simple, straightforward, evil plan. Or the
The Mycrits. That's the Godzilla moment, isn't it?
It is. Lion-O is walking through a forest and realizes crushing tiny house. There's a civilization of microscopic people living there, and to them, Lion-O is a kaiju. He's Godzilla. He has to negotiate a truce with these tiny accidents.
It's absurd, but I kind of love it. It shows the scale of the universe they've built.
It keeps the show unpredictable, if nothing else. You never knew if you were getting an epic fantasy battle or a story about apologizing to tiny people.
So we've gone through the trials, the new planet, the weird baby episodes. We're approaching the end, the final confrontation.
The stakes are finally raised to the absolute maximum. The ancient spirits of evil Mumm-Ra's bosses have had enough of his fail.
They put him on a performance improvement plan.
Very strict. They give Mumm-Ra an ultimatum. You have 24 hours to defeat the Thundercats for good, or you are exiled for forever.
And to help him out, they give him one final upgrade.
Giant Mumm-Ra.
How giant are we talking?
He becomes larger than the tower itself. He goes on an absolute rampage. He destroys the Thundercats' vehicles. He wrecks the tower. He actually kills the team briefly, sending them to limbo before they are resurrected by Jaga's spirit.
It's total destruction. But Lion-O realizes something. He can't beat giant Mumm-Ra in a fistfight.
No. Mumm-Ra is too powerful, but he has a deadline.
The 24-hour clock.
Lion-O realizes that Mumm-Ra's immense power is tied to the ultimatum. He doesn't have to kill him. He just has to survive until sunset.
He just has to run out the clock. I love that. It's a strategy we don't see enough in these kinds of shows. It's not about being stronger. It's about being smarter and more resilient.
He fights a defensive battle. He dodges, he shields, he leads Mumm-Ra on a chase. And when the time runs out, the ancient spirits of evil are true to their word. They banish Mumm-Ra. He fails.
So Mumm-Ra's gone. The Thundercats have won. This series is over.
Yeah, yes and no. Mumm-Ra is banished. But in the very final moments, the ancient spirits imply that evil never truly died. They resurrect him immediately after banishing him, but they leave him trapped in a sarcophagus on New Thundera, setting up a future conflict.
So the war technically continues. It's a cycle.
It implies an eternal cycle. Good and evil are in a constant struggle, but the series proper ends with Lino solving the final riddle of the Book of Omens.
Which is what?
The key to the Book of Omens. He realizes that the true power isn't in the sword or the book, but in the unity of the Thundercats, as a team and as a family. It solidifies his status. He is no longer the boy in the man's body. He's the wise leader who understands the burden of command.
That's a beautiful place to end it. So, looking back at this massive 130-episode saga, what does this all mean? Why are we still talking about Thundercats nearly 40 years later?
I think the legacy is surprised. It evolved from what could have been a simple good versus evil toy commercial into a complex saga about leadership, about found family, and about displacement.
The refugee angle is really strong when you look at it that. They're constantly building homes only to have them destroyed.
They are eternal refugees. They lose Thundera. They build a home on Third Earth. It gets destroyed. They go to New Thundera. It's unstable. They are constantly fighting for a place to belong, a call home.
And Lion-O's journey from a child to a leader is genuinely compelling. It really is about overcoming imposter syndrome. He spends half the series thinking he's not good enough because he didn't grow up the right way.
And that resonates. I think we all feel like kids pretending to be adults sometimes. Lion-O is the literal embodiment of that feeling.
And of course, there's the enduring appeal of the Sword of Omens sequence itself.
Sight beyond sight.
Who doesn't want that?
Mm-hmm.
The ability to see the truth in a confusing world.
It's the ultimate wish fulfillment. It represents clarity. In a world of deception, illusions, and shape-shifting mummies, the sword offers absolute, undeniable truth. It's an incredibly powerful concept.
It really changes how you view the happy ending, though. Usually we want the villain dead and the war over for good. But Thundercats seems to argue that the war against evil is a chronic condition. You don't cure it, you manage it.
That's it. That's the final lesson. The victory isn't the destination. It's the fact that you're still standing there, shield up, ready for whatever comes tomorrow.
A heavy lesson for Saturday morning. Thanks for diving in with us.
Thundercats, ho!
We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.